The soldier's fist came down like a hammer. It cracked through the supply cart, sent IV bags exploding across the floor, saline and blood mixing in a spreading pool that looked like a crime scene. His eyes weren't seeing the emergency room anymore. They were seeing sand, fire, bodies torn apart by shrapnel. He was back in the war. "Get away from me!" he roared, and 3 orderlies hit the ground hard when he swung again. Then she walked forward. Hannah Reed, the nurse everyone ignored. The one they called too quiet, too soft. The background fixture who restocked gauze and never spoke up in rounds. She moved through the chaos like she was walking through her own living room, and when she got close enough to touch him, she leaned in and whispered 6 words. The soldier froze. His fist hung in midair, his breath hitched, and then, impossibly, he lowered his hand and sank to his knees, shaking. No one understood what just happened. But those 6 words weren't just words. They were a door into something buried so deep, the government had tried to weld it shut. Stay with me until the end of this story. Like and comment which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this goes. Hannah Reed had been invisible for 3 years. She moved through the halls of Crescent Valley Memorial like a piece of furniture, necessary, functional, never noticed unless something was missing. The doctors didn't remember her name. The residents took credit for her catches. When she flagged a sepsis case early, Doctor, Brennan nodded, wrote the order, and told the attending he'd spotted it first. She didn't complain, didn't push back, just kept her head down and did the work. "Reed, restock trauma 2, the charge nurse barked one afternoon, not even looking up from her tablet. Hannah grabbed the supply cart and rolled it down the hall, her sneakers squeaking on linoleum that hadn't been cleaned since morning. The ER was understaffed, overpacked, running on fumes. Nurses were snapping at each other. A patient in curtain 4 had been waiting 2 hours for a psych consult. Another was vomiting into a bedpan while a resident stood 3 feet away, texting. She restocked the trauma bay in silence, counting suture kits, checking expiration dates, making sure the intubation tray was ready. No one thanked her. No one even saw her. That was the pattern, and she'd gotten used to it, until the night everything broke. Bam. The call came in at 2:47 a.m. Incoming trauma, GSW to the shoulder, combative, possible, TBI. ETA 4 minutes. Hannah was rotating gauze stock when she heard it. The energy in the room shifted instantly. Residents scrambling, attending snapping into position, charge nurse pulling gear. She stepped back, made space, stayed out of the way like she always did. The ambulance bay doors slammed open. Paramedics wheeled in a stretcher, and the man strapped to it was thrashing so hard the gurney was skipping on its wheels. His shoulder was wrapped in blood-soaked combat gauze. His eyes were wild, and he was screaming in a language Hannah didn't recognize at first, then realized was English, just shredded by panic. "Hold him down!" Dr. Brennan shouted. 2 orderlies grabbed his arms. He headbutted one of them, sent the other sprawling into a crash cart. Blood sprayed across the floor as he ripped an IV line out of his forearm and swung it like a whip. "Sedate him!" someone yelled. "Can't. He's hypotensive. We push anything strong and we'll lose him." The soldier kicked out. His boot caught a nurse in the ribs and she went down gasping. Another tried to hold his legs, got thrown into the wall. Brennan backed up, hands raised, eyes wide. This wasn't a patient anymore. This was a war. Hannah stood at the edge of the chaos, watching. And then she moved. No one saw her step forward. No one noticed her walk straight into the center of it, past the orderlies and the blood and the wreckage. She reached the soldier's side, leaned down close, and spoke so quietly that no one else could hear. 6 words. The soldier's fist froze mid-swing. His breath hitched. His eyes, wild, glazed, gone, snapped into focus, locked on her face. And then, impossibly, he lowered his hand. His whole body went slack. He collapsed back onto the gurney, chest heaving, staring at her like she'd just pulled him out of a grave. The room went silent. Dr. Brennan stared. The charge nurse blinked, tablet forgotten in her hand. One of the orderlies was still on the floor, bleeding from his nose, looking up at Hannah like she'd performed a magic trick. "What the hell did you just say to him?" Brennan asked. Hannah didn't answer. She kept her eyes on the soldier. His breathing was still ragged, but his hands had stopped shaking. He was looking at her like she was the only real thing in the room. "Get him stabilized," she said quietly. "He's in shock." Probable PTSD trigger. Don't restrain him unless you want him to spiral again. Brennan opened his mouth, then closed it. He nodded. Okay, let's move. The team swarmed in, but carefully this time, gentler, slower. The soldier didn't fight. He let them work, but his eyes never left Hannah. She stayed at his side while they got the IV in, while they cleaned the wound, while Brennan sutured the shoulder and muttered something about lucky it missed the artery. She didn't say much, just kept her hand on the soldier's wrist, her thumb pressed to his pulse, steady and calm. When it was over, Brennan pulled off his gloves and looked at her. What did you say to him? Nothing you need to know, Hannah said. His jaw tightened. Excuse me? She met his eyes. He's stable. That's what matters. Brennan stared at her for a long moment, then turned and walked out. The charge nurse gave her a look, half suspicious, half impressed, and followed. Hannah stayed. The soldier's eyes were closed now, his breathing finally even, but his hand had shifted, fingers curled around her wrist, like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. You're safe, she said softly. I'm not going anywhere. His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. How did you know? She didn't answer, just stayed there, quiet, until he fell asleep. By morning, the hospital was buzzing. Did you see what Reed did? I heard she just walked up and he stopped, like magic. Brennan's pissed. He hates when someone makes him look bad. Hannah ignored it all. She was in the break room, drinking burnt coffee and trying to stay awake for the last 2 hours of her shift. Her scrubs still had blood on them, not hers. Her hands were steady, but her mind was somewhere else. The door swung open. Dr. Brennan walked in, tablet in hand, jaw set. Read a word. She stood. Sure. He closed the door behind them, lowered his voice. What you did last night, don't make it a habit. I stabilized a patient. You interfered with protocol. You inserted yourself into a trauma without clearance. That's not your job. My job is to keep people alive. His eyes narrowed. Your job is to follow orders. You're a nurse, not a trauma lead. Don't forget that. She held his gaze, didn't blink, didn't flinch. Understood. He left. The door swung shut. Hannah exhaled slowly, finished her coffee, and went back to work. But something had shifted. She felt it in the way people looked at her now. Curious, uneasy, like they'd seen something they couldn't explain. The soldier had asked for her twice already, refused to talk to anyone else. The charge nurse tried to reassign his care to someone more experienced, but he'd shut down the moment Hannah left the room. So they put her back. She walked into his room that afternoon, chart in hand. He was sitting up, shoulder bandaged, eyes clear. He looked older than she'd thought, mid-30s maybe, with a scar running down his jaw and another across his knuckles. Military all the way. How are you feeling? She asked. Better. Thanks to you. She checked his vitals, made a note on the chart. Your wound's healing well. No infection. You should be clear to discharge in 48 hours. I'm not leaving. She paused, looked at him. Why not? He didn't answer right away, just stared at her, like he was trying to decide how much to say. Finally, because they'll come for me the second I walk out that door. Who? People who don't want me talking. Hannah's hand stilled on the chart. About what? He leaned forward, voice dropping. You don't want to know. Try me. He studied her face for a long moment. Then he said, I was part of a unit, Black Ops. We saw things, did things that weren't supposed to exist. And now someone's cleaning house. 3 of my team are dead. I'm supposed to be next. Hannah set the chart down. And you think they'll come here? I know they will. Her pulse kicked up, but her face stayed calm. Then we make sure you're ready when they do. He blinked. You're not going to tell me I'm paranoid? Are you? No. Then I believe you. For the first time since he'd arrived, the soldier smiled. It was small, bitter, but real. You're not like the others. No, Hannah said quietly. I'm not. She didn't leave his side for the next 12 hours. It wasn't official. She wasn't assigned to his room exclusively. But every time her shift rotation tried to pull her away, she found a reason to come back. Checking vitals, adjusting IV drips, monitoring wound drainage. The charge nurse noticed, raised an eyebrow, but didn't stop her. Maybe because the soldier, Sergeant Calloway, according to his intake sheet, refused to cooperate with anyone else. Maybe because Hannah was the only one who could keep him calm. Around 8 that evening, she brought him dinner. Hospital food, tasteless and gray, but he ate it anyway. "You don't have to babysit me," Calloway said between bites. "I'm not." "Then what are you doing?" "My job." He set down his fork, looked at her. "You know they're coming, right? And when they do, you don't want to be anywhere near me." "If they come," Hannah said, "I'll deal with it." You can't deal with these people. They don't follow rules. Neither do I." That made him pause. He studied her face like he was trying to read something written in a language he didn't quite know. "Who are you, really?" "A nurse." "Bullshit." She didn't respond, just picked up his tray, checked his chart, and walked out. But he was right. And she knew it. The first sign came at midnight. Hannah was at the nurse's station, updating charts, when the elevator at the end of the hall opened. 4 men stepped out. Dark suits, federal badges clipped to their belts. They moved like sharks, smooth, efficient, hungry. Her stomach tightened. She stood, walked quickly toward Calloway's room, and got there just as the lead officer reached for the door handle. "Can I help you?" she asked. The officer turned. Mid-40s, clean-shaven, eyes like ice. "We're here for Sergeant Calloway." "He's not cleared for discharge." "That's not your concern." "Actually, it is. I'm his nurse." The officer's jaw tightened. "Step aside, ma'am." "No." One of the other men moved closer, hand drifting toward his belt. The lead officer held up a hand, stopped him. "Ma'am, we have federal authority to remove this patient. You're interfering with an official investigation." "Then show me a warrant." "We don't need one." "Yes," Hannah said, voice cold. "You do." The officer's eyes narrowed. "You want to make this difficult?" "I want to follow the law." "If you have legal authority to remove him, show me the paperwork. Otherwise, you're trespassing." The officer stared at her. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and held it up. "There. Federal extraction order, signed by a district judge. Now move." Hannah looked at the screen. The order was real, dated today, signed official. But something was wrong. The language was too vague, the jurisdiction was off. And the judge's name, she'd heard it before, in passing, attached to a corruption case that got buried 3 years ago. She handed the phone back. "This order is invalid." "Excuse me?" Section 1983, Federal Patient Rights. You can't remove a patient mid-treatment without hospital clearance and a medical review board approval. This order doesn't have either. The officer's face went hard. "You're making a mistake." "No," Hannah said. "You are." Behind her, the door opened. Calloway stood there, pale, one hand pressed to his bandaged shoulder. "Hannah, don't. Get back in bed," she said, not looking at him. "They'll kill you. Get back in bed." He hesitated, then obeyed. The lead officer took a step forward. "Last chance." Hannah didn't move. "You touch him, he crashes. His BP's been unstable for 72 hours. You force him out of this bed, you trigger a cardiac event. And when he dies in your custody, I will personally ensure every detail of this encounter is documented, time-stamped, and submitted to both state and federal review." The officer's hand moved to his radio. "Control, we have interference." Hannah cut him off. "You call that in. This becomes an incident. Hospital security responds. Media picks it up. You'll have to explain why you tried to illegally extract a patient from an ICU without proper clearance. Is that the headline you want?" The officer froze. His finger hovered over the radio button. Then, slowly, he lowered his hand. "This isn't over," he said. "No," Hannah said quietly. "It's not." The officers left. The door swung shut. Hannah exhaled, hands shaking now, adrenaline crashing through her system like a drug. Calloway was staring at her. "What the hell just happened?" "They tried to take you." "I know that, but you—" He shook his head. "You just went toe-to-toe with federal agents. Do you have any idea what they could do to you?" "Yes." "Then why—" Because no one else will. He sat down on the bed slowly, like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. You're insane. Probably. They'll be back, and next time, they won't ask. Hannah looked at him. I know. Well, she was right. 3 hours later, the helicopters arrived. Hannah heard them first, low, heavy rotors cutting through the night, the kind of sound that made your chest vibrate. She was at the nurse's station, finishing paperwork, when the lights dimmed. The whole building shuddered. Then the lobby doors blew open. 6 soldiers in full tactical gear stormed in, rifles raised, moving like a machine. The security guard at the front desk stood up, hand on his radio, and one of them barked, "Stand down! Federal operation!" The guard froze. The lobby cleared. Patients scattered. Nurses ducked behind counters. Hannah stood. She grabbed Calloway's chart and moved fast toward his room, but the tactical team was already there. The lead operator, older, grizzled, with a scar bisecting his eyebrow, stopped when he saw her standing in the doorway. "Step aside, ma'am." "He's my patient." Not anymore." "Yes," Hannah said, voice hard. "He is." The operator's eyes narrowed. Then he looked past her into the room at Calloway sitting up in bed, wide-eyed and pale. "Sergeant Calloway," the operator said, "we're here to extract you." "I'm not going," Calloway said. "Not your choice." Hannah stepped forward, blocking the door. "He's under my care. You don't have medical clearance to move him. And you don't have clearance to stop us." "Actually," Hannah said, "I do." She reached up, pulled down the collar of her scrub top, and showed him the tattoo on her collarbone. It was small. Black ink. 7 letters. No, 7. The operator froze. His eyes went wide. Then, slowly, he lowered his rifle. Behind him, the rest of the team did the same. "Ma'am," the operator said, voice suddenly different. "I didn't realize. You weren't supposed to," Hannah said quietly. "Now stand down." The operator hesitated. Then he turned to his team. "Fall back. Secure the perimeter. No one in or out." They obeyed instantly. Calloway was staring at her, mouth open. The charge nurse had appeared at the end of the hall, eyes wide, tablet forgotten in her hand. Down in the lobby, Dr. Brennan stood frozen, staring at the tactical team, finally understanding that something was very, very wrong. The operator handed Hannah a satellite phone. "You'll want to call this in." She took it, dialed a number from memory. It rang twice. A voice answered, low, clipped, military. "Go." "This is Raven 7, Hannah said. "I have a hostile extraction attempt on Sergeant Calloway. Federal interference, requesting override." A pause. Then, "Confirmed. Calloway is under your protection until further notice. Full tactical support authorized. I'll have a team on site in 20. "Copy." She handed the phone back. The operator took it, then gave her a slow, respectful nod. "We'll hold the perimeter, ma'am." Hannah looked at Calloway. His face was white, eyes wide, like he'd just seen a ghost. "You're the ghost medic," he whispered. She didn't deny it. Outside, the helicopters circled. Inside, the hospital had gone silent. Brennan found her 10 minutes later. She was in the hallway, leaning against the wall, eyes closed, trying to steady her breathing. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her hollowed out and shaking. "Reed." She opened her eyes. Brennan stood there, tablet in hand, face pale. "What the hell is going on?" he asked. "Can't tell you." "Those are soldiers, tactical gear, military-grade weapons. In my hospital." "I know." "And they're taking orders from you." She didn't respond. Brennan stared at her. "Who are you?" "A nurse." "Stop lying." She met his eyes. "I'm a nurse. That's all you need to know." "No," Brennan said, voice rising. "I need to know why my ER is crawling with armed soldiers. I need to know why federal agents tried to extract a patient. I need to know—" "You need to stay out of it," Hannah said, cutting him off. "For your own safety." "My safety?" "Yes." Brennan's jaw worked. Then he said quietly, "I could report you. Have you arrested for obstruction?" "You could try." "Is that a threat?" "No, it's a fact." They stared at each other. Then Brennan turned and walked away. Hannah exhaled, closed her eyes again. Behind her, Calloway's door opened. He stepped into the hallway, moving slowly, one hand pressed to his shoulder. "You shouldn't be up," she said. "Neither should you." She looked at him. He looked back. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Calloway said, "I heard stories about Raven 7. Thought they were myths. They were. But you're real." "Not anymore." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I left that life 3 years ago. Took a new name, a new city, a new job. I was done." "And now?" She didn't answer. Calloway stepped closer. "Why did you help me?" "Because you needed it." "That's not an answer." "Yes," Hannah said quietly. "It is." He studied her face, then he said, "They're going to come after you now. You know that, right?" "I know." "And you're okay with that?" "No, but I don't have a choice." Calloway was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Thank you." She nodded, didn't say anything, just turned and walked back toward the nurse's station. But she could feel it now, the weight of the past settling back onto her shoulders, the life she'd tried to leave behind, rising up like a ghost. She'd thought she could stay hidden, thought she could be invisible. But some things don't stay buried. The tactical team held the perimeter all night. Hannah stayed at Calloway's bedside, checking vitals, monitoring his wound, making sure he stayed stable. He didn't sleep much. Neither did she. They just sat there in the dim light, listening to the hum of machines and the distant sound of helicopter rotors. Around 5 a.m., footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy, measured, military. Hannah stood, moved to the door, and opened it. A man stood there, late 40s, graying hair, sharp eyes. He wore fatigues, no insignia, but everything about him screamed command. "Raven 7, he said. "Colonel Reeves." He nodded. "It's been a while." 3 years. "You disappeared. We thought you were dead." "I wanted you to." Reeves looked past her, into the room, at Calloway lying in bed. "He's important." "I know." "The people trying to extract him, they're not federal. They're contractors. Private military. Someone hired them to clean up loose ends." "Who?" "That's what we're trying to figure out." Reeves looked back at her. "But Calloway knows something. Something big enough that they're willing to burn everything to keep it quiet." Hannah crossed her arms. "So what do you want from me?" "Keep him alive, long enough for us to get answers." "That's it?" "That's everything." She studied his face. "And if I say no?" "Then he dies. And whatever he knows dies with him." Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm not coming back. I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you asking?" "Just do what you do best," Reeves said. "Protect him." He turned and walked away. Hannah stood there in the doorway watching him go. Then she closed the door, locked it, and sat back down beside Calloway's bed. He was awake, staring at the ceiling. "You know him," he said. "Yes." "He's military." "Yes." "And you used to work with him." Hannah didn't answer. Calloway turned his head, looked at her. "What did you do, before this?" "Things I can't talk about." "Try me." She met his eyes. "I saved people, in places where no one else could, behind enemy lines, in war zones, in situations where one mistake meant everyone died. And now you're here. And now I'm here." "Why?" "Because I wanted a normal life." Calloway laughed, bitter and sharp. "How's that working out?" Hannah didn't answer, just stood, checked his vitals, made a note on his chart. But inside, something was shifting. The walls she'd built around herself, 3 years of silence, invisibility, hiding, were starting to crack. Because she'd forgotten something important. You can't outrun who you are. Morning came. The hospital woke up. Nurses changed shifts. Doctors made rounds. Life went on. But everything was different now. The tactical team was gone, replaced by 2 plainclothes operatives stationed in the hallway. The charge nurse avoided Hannah's gaze. Dr. Brennan stayed in his office, door closed, refusing to come out. Hannah walked through the ER like she always did, restocking supplies, checking charts, staying invisible. But people were watching now, whispering. "Is it true?" "I heard she's military." "Special forces," someone said. No way. She's just a nurse. Then why are there soldiers here? Hannah ignored it all. She had work to do. But around noon, the charge nurse pulled her aside. Reed, administration wants to see you. Hannah's stomach sank. When? Now. She followed the charge nurse upstairs into the administrative wing, past secretaries and cubicles and closed doors. They stopped at the end of the hall. The charge nurse knocked. Come in. Hannah stepped inside. The hospital administrator, Margaret Hale, 50s, graying hair, sharp suit, sat behind a mahogany desk. Dr. Brennan stood beside her, arms crossed. Sit, Hale said. Hannah sat. Hale folded her hands on the desk. Ms. Reed, we've received some concerning reports. About what? About you and your involvement with yesterday's incident. Hannah didn't respond. Federal agents, Hale continued, armed soldiers, helicopters, all because of one patient, a patient you've been personally overseeing. I was doing my job. Your job is to provide care, not to obstruct federal officers, not to call in military support. The officers were acting illegally. Hale's eyes narrowed. That's not your determination to make. Actually, Hannah said, it is. Patient safety supersedes jurisdictional authority. If removing a patient poses a medical risk, I have the right and the obligation to intervene. Even if it means defying federal authority? Yes. Brennan stepped forward. Reed, you need to understand the position you've put this hospital in. We're facing potential legal action, federal scrutiny, and all because you decided to play hero. Hannah looked at him. I saved a man's life. You created a situation. I stopped one. Hale held up a hand. Enough. Miss Reed, effective immediately, you're being placed on administrative leave, pending investigation. Hannah's chest tightened. You're suspending me? We're protecting the hospital. From what? From liability. From federal involvement. From you. Hannah stood. You're making a mistake. No, Hale said coldly. You made the mistake. Now you'll live with the consequences. Hannah stared at her. Then she turned and walked out. She made it to the stairwell before the anger hit. Hot, sharp, cutting. She braced herself against the wall, breathing hard, fists clenched. 3 years. 3 years of keeping her head down. 3 years of being invisible. And the moment she stepped up, the moment she did what was right, they threw her out. She closed her eyes, tried to steady herself, but deep down, she knew this wasn't over, because Calloway was still in danger, and no one else was going to protect him. She went back to his room one last time. Calloway was sitting up, eyes alert. What happened? I've been suspended. What? They're pulling me off your case, effective immediately. Calloway's face went pale. They can't do that. They just did. Then I'll refuse treatment. I'll walk out of here. No, Hannah said, cutting him off. You'll stay. You'll cooperate, and you'll stay alive. Not without you. You don't have a choice. He stared at her. Then he said quietly, they're going to come for me again. You know that. I know. And without you here, I'll still be here. What do you mean? She didn't answer, just handed him a small card. On it was a phone number, handwritten. You need anything, she said. You call that number. Someone will answer. Who? Someone who can help. Calloway looked at the card, then back at her. This isn't over, is it? No, Hannah said. It's just beginning. She turned to leave. Hannah. She stopped, looked back. Thank you, Calloway said. For everything. She nodded, then she walked out. But she didn't go home, didn't leave the hospital. Instead, she went to the basement, found an empty storage room, and pulled out her phone. She dialed the number from memory. It rang once. Reeves. It's me, Hannah said. I need a favor. Name it. I need eyes on Calloway, 24/7, and I need to know who hired those contractors. Already working on it. Good, because they're going to try again, and next time they won't fail. What are you going to do? Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Whatever it takes. She hung up. Outside, the sun was setting. The hospital was winding down. Visitors were leaving. Night shift was clocking in. And somewhere in the building, in a room on the third floor, Sergeant Calloway lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, holding a card with a phone number on it, wondering if the woman who saved his life was about to disappear forever. But Hannah Reed wasn't disappearing. She was just getting started. She was just getting started. Hannah waited until full dark before she moved. The basement storage room had one small window at ground level, grimy and cracked, and through it she could see the parking lot emptying out. Visitors gone. Day shift replaced. The hospital settling into its night rhythm. She pulled out her phone again, scrolled through contacts she hadn't touched in 3 years. Most of them were dead numbers now. Disconnected. Erased. But 3 were still active. She called the first one. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. No greeting. Just breathing. "It's Raven 7, Hannah said. A pause. Then a woman's voice, low and careful. "You're supposed to be dead." "I got better." "What do you need?" "Intel. Private military contractors operating in the Northeast Corridor. Recent activity, client list, any jobs involving witness extraction or elimination." "That's a tall order." "I know." Another pause. "This is going to cost you." "How much?" "A favor. One I'll collect later." Hannah exhaled. Favors in this world were currency, and they always came due at the worst possible time. But she didn't have a choice. "Deal. Give me 6 hours." The line went dead. Hannah pocketed the phone, stood, and slipped out of the storage room. The hallway was empty, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. She took the back stairs up to the 3rd floor, staying out of sight, moving like she used to. Silent, efficient, invisible. Calloway's room was at the end of the hall. The 2 plainclothes operatives were still there, one sitting in a chair by the door, the other leaning against the wall. They looked bored, tired, not expecting trouble. Hannah approached from the side, hands visible, non-threatening. The one in the chair looked up. "You're not supposed to be here." "I know. I just need 2 minutes." "You've been suspended." "I know that too." The operative's eyes narrowed. Then he stood, blocking her path. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Hannah met his gaze. "Is Colonel Reeves still running this op?" The operative hesitated. "That's classified." "Call him. Tell him Raven 7 needs access." The operative's face shifted. He pulled out his phone, stepped away, spoke quietly into it. 30 seconds later, he came back. "You've got 5 minutes." Hannah nodded, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. Calloway was awake, staring at the ceiling. When he saw her, he sat up fast, wincing as his shoulder pulled. "You came back." "I told you I would." "They said you were suspended." "I was. I still am." She pulled a chair close, sat down. "We don't have much time, so listen. The people who tried to extract you, they're not federal. They're contractors, private military. Someone hired them to make you disappear." Calloway's jaw tightened. "Who?" "That's what I'm trying to find out. But until I do, you're a target, and this hospital isn't safe." "Then where do I go?" "Nowhere. You stay here. You cooperate with the staff. You act like nothing's wrong." "While you do what?" "What I'm good at." He stared at her. "You're going after them." "Not yet. First I need to know who they are." "And then?" Hannah didn't answer. Calloway leaned forward, voice dropping. "You know what I was part of, right? The unit?" "I know." "Then you know what we did. The things we saw, the orders we followed." He swallowed hard. "There's a reason they want me dead. Because I can prove it. All of it. The black sites, the interrogations, the money trails." Hannah's chest tightened. "Who gave the orders?" "Someone high up. Someone with enough power to bury the whole thing." He looked at her, eyes hollow. "And if I talk, they go down. All of them." "Then talk." "I can't. Not yet. Not until I know who I can trust." "You can trust me." "I know. But you're one person, and they're an entire machine." Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you still have the evidence?" Calloway nodded. "It's safe. Hidden. But if they find it, They won't. How do you know? Because I won't let them. He searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. Found none. Why are you doing this? He asked. You could walk away, disappear, go back to being invisible. I tried that. Didn't work. That's not an answer. Hannah stood, moved toward the door. Get some rest, and if anything happens, anything at all, you use that number I gave you. Hannah. She stopped, hand on the doorknob. Thank you, Calloway said, for not giving up on me. She looked back at him. I'm not the giving up type. Then she left. The operatives watched her go, but didn't stop her. She took the stairs down, slipped out a side exit, and walked across the parking lot to her car. It was an old sedan, nondescript, the kind that blended into traffic. She got in, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, thinking. Whoever hired those contractors had resources, money, influence, and they were desperate enough to risk a public extraction attempt, which meant they were running out of time. That made them dangerous. But it also made them sloppy. Hannah pulled out of the lot and drove. She didn't go home. Home was a studio apartment on the east side, small and bare, a place she slept but never lived in. Instead, she drove to a diner on the outskirts of town, the kind that stayed open all night and asked no questions. She ordered coffee, sat in a corner booth, and waited. 2 hours later, her phone buzzed. A text. No name, just a file attachment. She opened it. It was a list. Names, dates, locations. Contract jobs spanning the last 6 months. Most of them were standard. Security details, executive protection, asset recovery. But 3 stood out. 3 jobs marked priority with redacted client information and high-risk designations. All 3 involved witness suppression, and all 3 had been completed in the last 30 days. Calloway wasn't the first. He was just the only one still alive. Hannah's blood went cold. She scrolled down, found the contractor company's name, Sentinel Solutions. Registered in Delaware, offices in 6 states, no public record of leadership. A ghost company. But ghosts left trails. She pulled up a second app, one she'd built herself 3 years ago and never deleted. It was a backdoor into military databases, procurement records, black budget allocations. Technically illegal, definitely useful. She ran Sentinel Solutions through it. 3 hits. All 3 contracts had been funded through a shell corporation called Vanguard Investments, and Vanguard had one primary investor, a man named Richard Kessler. Hannah's breath caught. She knew that name. Kessler was a defense contractor, billionaire, political donor, the kind of man who played golf with senators and had private dinners with joint chiefs. He'd made his fortune selling weapons systems to the military, then diversified into private security, intelligence contracting, and a dozen other ventures that blurred the line between legal and not. And if he was involved, this went deeper than she'd thought. She closed the app, finished her coffee, and left. The drive back to the hospital took 20 minutes. By the time she arrived, it was past midnight. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a handful of cars scattered under flickering streetlights. She parked in the far corner out of sight and walked toward the building. Halfway there, she stopped. Something was wrong. The air felt different, heavier, the kind of tension that came before violence. She scanned the lot. Nothing obvious, no movement, no sounds except the distant hum of traffic. But her instincts were screaming. She pulled out her phone, called Reeves. He picked up on the first ring. What? Something's happening. I need your people on high alert. Already are. We picked up chatter an hour ago. Sentinels mobilizing another team. Hannah's stomach dropped. How many? At least 6. Maybe more. When? Soon. Define soon. Tonight. She hung up, broke into a run. She hit the side entrance at full speed, badge swiped through the locked door, and took the stairs 3 at a time. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she didn't slow down. 3rd floor, end of the hall. The operatives were gone. Hannah's heart slammed into her ribs. She sprinted down the corridor, hit Calloway's door, shoved it open. Empty. The bed was stripped. The IV stand knocked over, a pool of blood on the floor, still wet. No, she whispered. She spun, ran back into the hall, grabbed the first nurse she saw. Where's the patient from 312? The nurse blinked. I don't know. I just came on shift. Hannah let her go, pulled out her phone, dialed Reeves again. They took him. Reeves swore. When? I don't know. Within the last hour. Where's my team? Gone. Either dead or compromised. Another curse. I'm sending backup. Sit tight. No, I'm going after him. Reed, you don't even know where... She hung up. There was only one place they'd take him. Somewhere isolated. Somewhere they could finish the job without witnesses. She pulled up the contractor file again, scrolled through it, found a location listed under Sentinel's asset registry. An industrial park 15 miles outside the city. Abandoned. Off the grid. That had to be it. Hannah ran back to her car, got in, and drove. She pushed the sedan hard, weaving through empty streets, running red lights, ignoring every traffic law that existed. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing. She'd let this happen. She'd left him alone. She'd trusted the system to protect him. And the system had failed. 15 minutes later, she pulled into the industrial park. It was a graveyard of rusted metal and broken concrete, warehouses with shattered windows and graffiti-covered walls. No lights. No movement. She parked behind a collapsed loading dock, killed the engine, and got out. The night was cold, silent. The kind of silence that pressed against your ears and made you hear your own heartbeat. She moved quickly, staying low, using the wreckage for cover. Ahead, one of the warehouses still had intact doors. A faint glow leaked through the cracks. That was it. She approached from the side, found a broken window, and climbed through. Inside, the warehouse was cavernous, rusted beams crisscrossed overhead. Trash and debris littered the floor, and in the center, under a cluster of portable floodlights, Calloway was on his knees. His hands were zip-tied behind his back. His face was bruised. Blood dripped from his nose. 5 men stood around him. Tactical gear. Rifles. Sentinel solutions. One of them, the leader judging by his posture, stepped forward and pressed a pistol to the back of Calloway's head. "Last chance," the man said. "Where's the evidence?" Calloway spat blood onto the concrete. "Go to hell!" The leader cocked the pistol. Hannah moved. She came out of the shadows fast, silent, and drove her elbow into the nearest contractor's throat. He went down choking. She grabbed his rifle mid-fall, spun, and fired twice. 2 more contractors dropped. The leader whipped around, pistol rising, but Hannah was already moving. She kicked the gun out of his hand, brought the rifle butt up into his jaw, sent him sprawling. The last contractor opened fire. Bullets tore through the air, ricocheting off metal beams, sparking against concrete. Hannah dove behind a rusted support column, returned fire, and dropped him with a headshot. Silence. She stood, breathing hard, rifle still raised. The leader was on the ground, groaning, blood pouring from his mouth. The others were dead or unconscious. Hannah walked over to Calloway, pulled a knife from her belt, and cut his zip ties. He collapsed forward, gasping. "How did you eat?" "Later. Can you walk?" "I think so." She pulled him to his feet, checked him over. His shoulder wound had reopened, blood soaked through his shirt, but he was alive. "We need to move," she said. They started toward the exit. Behind them, the leader coughed, dragged himself onto his knees. "You're dead," he rasped. "Both of you. Kessler will—" Hannah turned, fired once. The leader slumped. She lowered the rifle, looked at Calloway. "Can you run?" He nodded. They ran. They burst out of the warehouse into the cold night air, crossed the lot, and reached Hannah's car just as headlights appeared in the distance. More vehicles, more contractors. "Get in," Hannah said. Calloway threw himself into the passenger seat. Hannah started the engine, slammed it into gear, and floored it. The sedan fishtailed, tires screaming, then shot forward. Behind them, the headlights accelerated. Pursuing. "How many?" Hannah asked. Calloway looked back. 3 vehicles, maybe 12 men. "Great." She yanked the wheel, took a hard right onto a service road, the sedan's suspension groaning. The headlights followed. Ahead, the road split, left toward the highway, right toward the industrial district. Hannah went right. "Why are we going deeper?" Calloway asked. "Because I need to slow them down." She took another turn, then another, weaving through the maze of warehouses and loading docks. The headlights fell back, struggling to keep up. Then she saw it. A narrow alley between two buildings, barely wide enough for the sedan. She aimed for it. "Hold on!" The car scraped through, mirrors shattering, paint screaming. They burst out the other side, and Hannah hit the brakes, spun the wheel, and brought the car to a stop perpendicular to the alley, blocking it. "Out," she said. They jumped out, ran to the far side of the building, and ducked behind a dumpster. 10 seconds later, the first pursuit vehicle hit the alley. Too fast. Too narrow. It wedged. Metal shrieked. The engine revved, but the vehicle was stuck. The second one slammed into the first. The third skidded to a stop. Hannah grabbed Calloway's arm. "Now." They ran, cutting through the industrial park, using the chaos as cover. Behind them, men were shouting, engines roaring, but the sounds grew distant. They reached the edge of the park, crossed a chain-link fence, and kept moving. 5 minutes later, Hannah stopped. They were in a residential area now, streetlights buzzing overhead, houses dark and silent. Calloway doubled over, gasping. Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." "Where's that?" "I don't know yet." He looked at her, eyes wide. "They know who you are now. They'll come for you." "Let them." "Hannah, I said let them." Calloway stared at her. Then he nodded, too exhausted to argue. Hannah pulled out her phone, called Reeves. "I've got him." "Where are you?" "Safe, for now." "They hit the hospital, killed 2 of my men, took out the security cameras. This is escalating fast." "I know. Kessler's behind it." A pause. "You're sure?" "Positive." Reeves swore again. "That's a problem. Kessler's got connections everywhere. Congress, DOD, CIA. If he's involved, we're not just fighting contractors, we're fighting the whole system. Then we fight the system." "Reed, I'm not backing down. Not this time." Reeves was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Okay, I'll see what I can do. But you need to get Calloway somewhere secure, somewhere they can't reach." "Working on it." She hung up. Calloway was watching her. "You really think we can win this?" Hannah looked at him. "I don't know, but we're going to try." They started walking again, sticking to side streets, avoiding main roads. Hannah's mind was racing. Kessler had money, power, influence, but he also had weaknesses. Everyone did. She just had to find them. An hour later, they reached a motel on the far side of town, the kind with flickering neon signs and rooms you paid for in cash. Hannah got them a room on the second floor, away from the road, with a clear view of the parking lot. Inside, the room was exactly what she expected. Stained carpet, broken TV, bed that sagged in the middle. Calloway collapsed onto it, wincing. Hannah checked his shoulder. The wound had reopened, but it wasn't critical. She grabbed the first aid kit from her bag, cleaned it, redressed it. "You carry a first aid kit everywhere?" Calloway asked. "Old habits. From your military days." "Yes." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Who were you before this?" Hannah didn't answer right away. She finished bandaging his shoulder, packed up the kit, and sat down on the edge of the bed. "I was a combat medic," she said finally. "Special operations. I went where others couldn't, did things others wouldn't." "Like what?" "Saved people who were supposed to be unsavable, in places where one wrong move meant everyone died. And then? And then I saw too much, did too much, and I couldn't do it anymore." Calloway studied her face. "So you walked away?" "Yes." "And became a nurse?" "Yes." "Why?" Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Because I wanted to save people without having to kill anyone first." Calloway nodded slowly. "How's that working out?" She looked at him, didn't answer, because they both already knew. Hannah stood, moved to the window, and looked out at the parking lot. Empty. For now. But she knew it wouldn't last. Kessler wouldn't stop. He couldn't afford to. Calloway knew too much. And now, so did she. Which meant they were both targets. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her contacts, and stopped on a name she hadn't called in years. Marcus Webb. He was ex-CIA, retired, living off the grid somewhere in Montana. But he owed her a favor. A big one. She called. It rang 6 times before he picked up. This better be good. It's Hannah Reed. A pause. Raven 7. That's not my name anymore. Sure it isn't. What do you want? I need information. On Richard Kessler. Another pause, longer this time. Kessler's untouchable. Nobody's untouchable. He is. He's got files on everyone. Judges, senators, generals. You go after him, he buries you. Then I'll dig faster. Webb sighed. You always were stubborn. Fine. What do you need? Everything. Financial records, business dealings, contacts, dirt. That's a big ask. I know. You realize if I do this, I'm burning bridges. People will know I helped. I know. And I'm sorry. Webb was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You must really believe in this. I do. All right. Give me 48 hours. I might not have 48 hours. Then you better stay alive until I call. The line went dead. Hannah pocketed the phone, turned back to Calloway. He was sitting up now, watching her. Who was that? Someone who can help. You have a lot of someones. I used to. And now? Now I'm cashing in every favor I've got. Calloway leaned back against the headboard. This guy Kessler, you really think you can take him down? I don't know, but I'm going to try. Why? You barely know me. This isn't your fight. Hannah walked back to the bed, sat down. It became my fight the moment I stepped in front of those federal agents. The moment I chose to protect you instead of staying invisible. You could still walk away. No, I couldn't. Why not? She looked at him. Because I'm tired of hiding, tired of being invisible, tired of letting people like Kessler win. Calloway held her gaze. Then he nodded. Okay, then let's make him lose. Hannah almost smiled. Almost. But before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. One line. No signature. We know where you are. Hannah's blood turned to ice. She stood, moved to the window, scanned the parking lot. Nothing. Still empty. But then she saw it. A black SUV rolling slowly past the motel entrance. Tinted windows. No plates. Her chest tightened. Calloway, we need to go. Now. He was already moving, grabbing his jacket, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Hannah grabbed her bag, checked the rifle. 1 magazine left. 20 rounds. Not enough. She moved to the door, cracked it open, looked out. The hallway was clear, but she could hear footsteps. Heavy. Multiple sets. Coming up the stairs. Back window, she said. They crossed the room fast. Hannah unlocked the window, shoved it open, looked down. 10-foot drop onto gravel. You first, she said. Calloway didn't argue. He climbed through, hung from the ledge, and dropped. He hit hard, rolled, came up limping but standing. Hannah followed. She landed smoother, trained muscles absorbing the impact, and grabbed Calloway's arm. Move! They ran across the gravel lot, into the darkness beyond the motel. Behind them, the door to their room exploded inward. Shouts, boots pounding. Hannah pulled Calloway into a narrow gap between 2 buildings. They pressed against the wall, breathing hard, listening. The shouts grew louder. Flashlights swept the lot. They're gone! Check the perimeter. Find them. Hannah waited until the voices moved away, then pulled Calloway deeper into the shadows. They came out on a residential street. Dark houses. Sleeping families. Hannah's phone buzzed again. Another text. Same unknown number. You can't run forever. She deleted it, turned off the phone, and pulled the battery. They're tracking you, Calloway said. Not anymore. What now? Hannah looked around. They were miles from her car. No transportation, no backup, and an entire private army hunting them. She thought fast. There was one place they could go, one person who might help. But it was a long shot, and it meant revealing herself completely. Follow me, she said. They walked for 20 minutes, sticking to alleys and side streets, avoiding main roads. Hannah's legs burned. Her mind raced, but she kept moving. Finally, they reached a small house on the edge of town. Lights off, car in the driveway. Hannah walked up to the door and knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder. A light came on inside. Footsteps. The door opened a crack. Dr. Brennan stood there in pajamas, eyes bleary, hair messed. When he saw Hannah, his expression shifted from confusion to anger. "Reed, what the hell are you—" "I need your help," Hannah said. Brennan's eyes flicked to Calloway, took in the blood, the bruises, the fear, then back to Hannah. "No," he said. "Whatever this is, I want no part of it. They're trying to kill him, and if you don't help, they'll succeed. Call the police." "The police can't help. This goes higher." Brennan started to close the door. Hannah put her hand on it, stopped him. "Please," she said. "You're a doctor. He needs medical attention, and we have nowhere else to go." Brennan stared at her, then at Calloway, then back at her. "You bring hell with you," he said quietly. "You know that?" "I know." He hesitated. Then slowly, he stepped aside. "Get in, before someone sees you." They stepped inside. Brennan closed the door, locked it, drew the curtains. Then he turned and looked at Hannah with something between fear and grudging respect. "You better tell me everything." Hannah met his eyes. And somewhere in the darkness outside, a black SUV rolled past, headlights cutting through the night, hunting for ghosts. And somewhere in the darkness outside, a black SUV rolled past, headlights cutting through the night, hunting for ghosts. Hannah watched through a gap in the curtains until the vehicle disappeared around the corner. Her hand stayed on his rifle slung across her shoulder. 3 seconds. 5. 10. The street stayed quiet. She turned back to Brennan. He stood in his living room looking like a man who just opened his door to find a grenade on his doorstep. His eyes kept flicking between Hannah and Calloway, taking in the blood, the weapons, the exhaustion carved into their faces. "Start talking," Brennan said. Hannah moved Calloway to the couch, checked his shoulder wound. Fresh blood seeped through the bandage. Not arterial, but steady. He needed sutures, antibiotics, fluids. She looked at Brennan. "He needs a proper dressing. Suture kit if you have one." "I'm a cardiologist, not a trauma surgeon." "Then improvise." Brennan didn't move. "Not until you tell me why armed men are hunting you through my city." Hannah straightened. Sergeant Calloway witnessed war crimes, black operations, money laundering through defense contracts. The people responsible are trying to silence him before he can testify. "And you?" "I'm trying to keep him alive." "By bringing him here? To my house?" Brennan's voice climbed. "You've put my family at risk." "Your family's in Boston visiting your sister," Hannah said flatly. "You told the charge nurse yesterday you had the house to yourself for the week. That's why I came here." Brennan's mouth opened, closed. He stared at her like she'd just read his diary. "How did you—" "Because I pay attention. Now get your medical supplies before he bleeds through your couch." Something in her tone cut through Brennan's panic. He looked at Calloway again, saw the gray tinge creeping into his skin, the shallow breathing. Doctor's instinct kicked in. He disappeared down the hall. Calloway's eyes were half closed. "You sure about this?" "No." "Great." Brennan returned with a duffel bag. Suture kit, IV fluids, antibiotics, bandages. He knelt beside the couch, hands already moving with practiced efficiency. "This is gonna hurt." "Not my first time," Calloway said. Brennan cut away the old bandage, examined the wound. "Gunshot?" "Yes." "Through and through?" "Yes." "Lucky." Brennan prepped a syringe, local anesthetic. "This'll take the edge off." He worked quickly, cleaning the wound, injecting lidocaine, setting up the IV line. Hannah watched, saw his hands steady as he sutured, saw the shift from frightened civilian to focused physician. Maybe Brennan was an arrogant bastard in the hospital, but he was competent when it mattered. "Tell me the rest," Brennan said without looking up from his work. Hannah moved to the window, kept watch. "The man behind this is Richard Kessler, defense contractor, billionaire. He's been running black ops through shell companies, using military assets for private profit. Calloway's unit stumbled onto it. They were ordered to eliminate witnesses, bury evidence. 3 members refused. They're all dead now. And Calloway? He kept proof, documents, financial records, enough to bring down Kessler and everyone connected to him." Brennan tied off the last suture. "Where's the proof?" "Hidden." "Where?" Calloway spoke, voice tight with pain. "Safe deposit box. Bank in Riverside. Box 447. Hannah's head snapped around. "You didn't tell me that." You didn't ask. What's the access code? I'll tell you when we get there. Hannah's jaw tightened. We're not going anywhere near a bank. They'll have every financial institution in the state under watch. Then we're screwed, Calloway said, because without that evidence, Kessler walks, and we both end up dead. Brennan finished bandaging the wound, stood, wiped his hands. Even if you get the evidence, what then? You go to the authorities? Kessler owns half of them. Not all of them, Hannah said. Enough of them. Then we find the ones he doesn't own. Brennan shook his head. You're one person. Against a billionaire with unlimited resources and political connections. This is suicide. Maybe. Definitely. Hannah turned from the window, met his eyes. 3 years ago, I walked away from a life where I had power, where I mattered. I thought if I stayed quiet, stayed small, I could have something normal, something safe. She paused. I was wrong, because the moment you stop fighting, you become invisible, and invisible people don't change anything. Brennan stared at her. So this is about pride. This is about doing what's right. Right doesn't win against money. Then I'll make it win. The room went silent. Brennan looked at her like he was seeing someone he'd never met before. Then he sighed, ran a hand through his hair. You're insane. Probably. And you're going to get yourself killed. Maybe. And you're still going to do this. Yes. Brennan looked at Calloway, then back at Hannah. What do you need from me? A car. Yours is clean, they won't be tracking it, and a place to lie low for a few hours while I figure out how to get into that bank. That's all? That's all. Brennan exhaled slowly. Then he nodded. Keys are on the counter. Gray Honda, parked in the driveway. You wreck it, you buy me a new one. Deal. Hannah grabbed the keys, helped Calloway to his feet. He swayed, steadied himself against her shoulder. You good? She asked. Good enough. They moved toward the door. Brennan followed, unlocked it, pulled it open a crack, and checked the street, still empty. Read. She looked back. For what it's worth, Brennan said, I was wrong about you. You're not soft. You're just quiet. There's a difference. Hannah nodded once. Then she and Calloway slipped out into the night. They took Brennan's Honda, Hannah driving. Calloway slumped in the passenger seat, fighting to stay conscious. She drove carefully, keeping to side streets, watching mirrors, looking for tails. Nothing obvious, but that didn't mean they weren't out there. How long until they find us? Calloway asked. Not long. Kessler's got resources. He'll be running facial recognition, traffic cameras, cell tower triangulation. Every minute we stay in one place, we're easier to find. Then why aren't we moving faster? Because panic gets you killed. Calloway was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You've done this before. Yes. How many times? Too many. She took a left, then another, working her way toward the industrial district. Fewer cameras there, more places to hide. Her phone was still dead, battery removed. But she needed intel, needed to know what Kessler was doing, where his people were, how tight his net was closing. She pulled into an empty lot behind a closed factory, killed the engine. Stay here. Where are you going? To make a call. She got out, walked to the far side of the lot where she had a clear view of the access road, pulled out her phone, reinserted the battery, powered it on. 3 missed calls from Reeves, 2 from unknown numbers. 1 text. She opened the text. Marcus Webb. Finally. Kessler's scrambling, pulled contracts on 6 different assets in the last 4 hours. Something's got him spooked. Call me. Hannah dialed. Webb picked up immediately. Where are you? Can't say. Smart. Listen, Kessler's burning bridges. He just liquidated 3 shell companies, moved money offshore, cut ties with half his political contacts. Whatever Calloway knows, it's bad enough that Kessler's willing to destroy his entire operation to bury it, which means we're running out of time. You were out of time 12 hours ago. Now you're on borrowed seconds. Webb paused. I dug into Kessler's network, found something interesting. He's got a fixer, woman named Elena Voss, ex-intelligence, freelance now. She handles his dirty work. And according to my sources, she's in your city, right now. Hannah's chest tightened. How do I find her? You don't. She finds you. That's her specialty. Then I'll make sure she does. Reed, this woman is not someone you want to go up against. She's a professional. I'm a professional too. You were 3 years ago. Now you're a nurse playing soldier. There's a difference. Hannah's jaw clenched. Send me everything you have on her. Already did. Check your email. Thanks, Marcus. Don't thank me. Just stay alive. She hung up, checked her email. Webb had sent a file. She opened it. Elena Voss, 42. Former CIA field operative, discharged under circumstances not specified in her official record. Freelance since. Specialized in high-value target elimination and evidence suppression. Preferred methods, close range, clean, no witnesses. Last confirmed location, Chicago. 2 days ago. There was a photo. Sharp features, cold eyes, dark hair pulled back. The kind of woman who could walk through a crowded room and disappear. Hannah memorized the face, deleted the email, pulled the battery again. She walked back to the car. Calloway was sitting up now, looking more alert. The IV fluids were helping. What's the move? The bank opens at 9. We have 4 hours. They'll be watching it. I know. So how do we get in? Hannah didn't answer. She was thinking, running scenarios, calculating risks. The smart play was to wait, hole up somewhere secure, call in Reeves and his team, go in with overwhelming force. But smart plays took time, and time was something they didn't have. The other option was fast and reckless. Walk into the bank during business hours, blend with normal customers, access the box, get out before anyone realized what was happening. Risky. Maybe suicidal. But it was the only option that had a chance. I'm going in alone, Hannah said. No. You're in no condition to... I'm not giving you the access code unless I'm there with you. Hannah turned, looked at him. You don't trust me? I trust you, but the code's in my head and nowhere else. If something happens to me before you get the evidence, Kessler wins. So we go together, or we don't go at all. Hannah wanted to argue, but he was right, and they both knew it. Fine, but you do exactly what I say, when I say it. No questions. Agreed. She started the car, pulled out of the lot. 4 hours until the bank opened. She used the time to move. Stayed in motion, kept circling, never stayed in one place longer than 10 minutes. Drove through residential areas, commercial districts, industrial zones. Watched for patterns, for vehicles that showed up twice, for anything that felt wrong. Twice she spotted possibles. A black sedan that followed for 3 blocks before turning off. A van parked on a corner with tinted windows. Each time she changed course, doubled back, waited. Nothing solid. But the pressure was building. Around 8:30, she stopped at a gas station, paid cash, filled the tank, bought 2 coffees and a prepaid burner phone, activated it, called Reeves. About damn time, he said. I need backup. Riverside Bank, corner of 5th and Main, 9 a.m. What are you doing? Getting the evidence. That's insane. Kessler will have the place locked down. Then make sure he doesn't. Reed, I'm going in, with or without your help. Reeves swore. How many men do you need? None. I just need you to run interference, create noise, make Kessler think we're going somewhere else. And if he doesn't buy it, then improvise. She hung up before he could argue. By 8:50, they were parked 2 blocks from the bank. Hannah scanned the area, foot traffic picking up, morning commuters, people heading to work. Normal. Too normal. She looked harder. 3rd car down, passenger side, man in a suit, sunglasses, hands on the wheel, but engine off. Across the street, woman in business clothes leaning against a wall, checking her phone but never looking at it long enough to actually read anything. Watchers. They're here, Calloway said quietly. I know. How many? At least 4 that I can see. Probably more inside. So what's the plan? Hannah reached into the back seat, pulled out a jacket she'd taken from Brennan's closet. Navy blue, professional. She put it on over her shirt, pulled her hair back into a ponytail. We walk in like we belong, act normal, get to the box, get out. That's the plan? That's the plan. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one? Calloway opened his mouth, closed it. No. Then let's go. They got out of the car and walked. Hannah kept her pace steady, casual, like she was just another customer running morning errands. Calloway matched her stride, though she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand stayed close to his side where a weapon would be if he had one. They reached the bank entrance. Hannah pushed through the glass doors. Inside, the lobby was quiet. Marble floors, high ceilings, teller windows along one wall, a handful of customers scattered throughout. 2 security guards flanking the door. And standing near the safe deposit room pretending to read a brochure was Elena Voss. Hannah recognized her instantly. Same sharp features, same cold eyes. She'd cut her hair shorter since the photo, but it was her. Their eyes met. Voss smiled. Just barely. Then she looked away, went back to reading the brochure. Hannah's pulse kicked up, but she kept walking, moved toward the customer service desk like she had every right to be there. Calloway stayed close. That's her, isn't it? The fixer. Yes. What do we do? Nothing. We get the box and leave. She's not going to let us. She will if she thinks we're not a threat. They reached the desk. A young woman in a pantsuit looked up, smiled. How can I help you? Safe deposit box access, Hannah said. Box 447. Of course. I'll need identification and the access key. Calloway pulled out his wallet, handed over his ID. The woman checked it, typed something into her computer. One moment. She stood, walked toward the back. Hannah glanced over her shoulder. Voss was still there, still reading, but her body language had shifted, coiled, ready. The woman returned. Right this way. She led them through a security door, down a hallway, into a small room lined with metal boxes. Box 447 is here. You'll have privacy. Just let me know when you're finished. She left, closing the door behind her. Calloway moved to the box, pulled out a key, inserted it. The lock clicked. He opened it. Inside was a single USB drive. Hannah stared at it. That's it? That's everything. He grabbed the drive, pocketed it. Let's go. They moved back into the hallway, walked toward the lobby, and stopped. Voss was standing at the end of the hall, blocking their path. Sergeant Calloway, she said. Her voice was smooth, almost pleasant. I'm afraid I can't let you leave with that. Hannah stepped forward. Move. Voss's eyes flicked to her. Raven 7. I've heard stories about you. They said you were dead. They were wrong. Apparently, Voss tilted her head slightly, like she was considering something. Then she said, Walk away. Right now. Leave Calloway with me, take the drive to whoever you're working for, and I'll forget I saw you. No. Think about it. You get what you want. I get what I want. Everyone wins. Except Calloway. He's dead either way. At least this way you survive. Hannah's hand moved to her waistband, where she'd tucked a pistol taken from one of the contractors last night. I'm not leaving him. Voss sighed. Pity. She moved. Fast. Impossibly fast. Her hand came up with a suppressed pistol, aimed at Calloway's head. Hannah drew faster, fired first. The shot went wide, punched through drywall. Voss dropped, rolled, came up firing. Bullets tore past Hannah's shoulder, shattered glass behind her. Calloway dove for cover. Hannah returned fire, 3 rounds, driving Voss back into the lobby. Screams erupted. Customers scattered. The security guards were shouting, pulling weapons, trying to figure out what was happening. Hannah grabbed Calloway, dragged him toward a side exit. They burst through the door into an alley, sprinted toward the street. Behind them, Voss emerged, still firing. Hannah felt a round tug at her jacket, another spark off the pavement. She yanked Calloway around a corner, kept running. They reached the Honda, threw themselves inside. Hannah started the engine, slammed it into gear, floored it. The car shot forward. In the rear view, Voss was running toward a black SUV parked at the curb. She's coming, Calloway said. I know. Hannah took a hard right, tires screaming. The Honda fishtailed, straightened, accelerated. Behind them, the SUV roared to life, gave chase. Hannah weaved through traffic, cutting across lanes, running lights. The SUV stayed close, matching every turn. Voss was good. Too good. Hannah saw an opening, jerked the wheel left, dove into a narrow side street. The Honda barely fit. Mirrors scraped brick walls on both sides. The SUV tried to follow, got stuck. Hannah kept going, burst out the other end, turned onto a main road. For 30 seconds, they were clear. Then two more SUVs appeared ahead, blocking the intersection. Hannah hit the brakes, yanked the wheel, sent the Honda into a skid. It spun 180, and she floored it in reverse, working the gears, shifting forward, speeding away from the blockade. "They're boxing us in," Calloway said. "I noticed." She took another turn, then another, heading toward the industrial district. More room to maneuver there, more options. But the SUVs were everywhere now. She counted 4, maybe 5. Coordinated. Professional. Kessler had pulled out all the stops. Ahead, an overpass. Beneath it, a service road leading to the old rail yards. Hannah aimed for it. She shot under the overpass, down the service road, into the rail yards. Abandoned tracks, rusted cars, concrete and gravel. She drove between the rail cars, using them for cover. The SUVs followed, but they were bigger, slower. She had the advantage here. She pushed the Honda hard, weaving through the maze. Then she saw it. A gap in the fence line. Beyond it, open ground leading to the highway. She aimed for the gap, floored it. The Honda hit the hole, tore through chain link, bounced onto rough terrain. The suspension screamed. Something underneath crunched, but they made it through. Hannah merged onto the highway, blending with traffic. In the rear view, the SUVs were stuck in the rail yard, trying to find another way out. Calloway let out a breath. "We made it!" "Not yet." Hannah kept driving, kept moving, didn't slow down until they were 10 miles outside the city. Only then did she pull off onto a deserted access road, kill the engine. They sat there in silence, breathing hard, adrenaline crashing. Calloway pulled the USB drive from his pocket, held it up. "We got it." Hannah looked at the drive. All of it. The truth about Kessler, the proof of corruption, the evidence that could bring down an empire, was on that tiny piece of metal and plastic. "Now what?" Calloway asked. Hannah pulled out the burner phone, dialed Reeves. "We have the evidence." "Good. Bring it to me. I'll get it to the right people." "Where?" "There's a safe house in..." The line went dead. Hannah stared at the phone. The screen was black. She tried to power it on. Nothing. "What happened?" Calloway asked. "I don't know." She checked the battery, still charged, but the phone was completely dead, like it had been remotely disabled. Her stomach dropped. "They're jamming us," she said. "Who?" "I don't know, but someone just cut our communications." Calloway's face went pale. "That means..." Hannah's head snapped up. 3 black SUVs were rolling onto the access road. Slow, deliberate, blocking both exits. Her hand moved to the ignition. "Don't," a voice said. Hannah looked up. Elena Voss stood 20 feet away, pistol raised, aimed directly at Hannah's head through the windshield. Behind her, a dozen armed contractors fanned out, surrounding the car. "Step out of the vehicle," Voss said. "Hands where I can see them." Hannah's hand stayed on the key. Voss cocked the hammer. "Now." Hannah met her eyes, calculated odds. 12 shooters. 1 pistol with maybe 6 rounds left. No cover, no backup. Suicide. She opened the door, stepped out slowly, hands raised. Calloway did the same. Voss approached, weapon steady. "The drive." "Go to hell," Calloway said. Voss shot him. The round hit his leg, dropped him screaming. Hannah lunged forward, but 2 contractors grabbed her arms, slammed her against the car. Voss stepped over Calloway, pressed her boot onto his wounded leg. He screamed again. "The drive," Voss repeated. "Or I shoot the other leg, then your arms. Then I get creative." Calloway's hand shook as he reached into his pocket, pulled out the USB drive. Voss took it, examined it, smiled. "Good. Now we're going for a ride." She nodded to the contractors. They zip-tied Hannah's wrists, dragged her toward one of the SUVs. Hannah fought, twisted, but there were too many of them. They threw her into the back seat. Calloway was shoved in beside her, blood soaking through his pant leg, face white with shock. Voss climbed into the front passenger seat, turned to look back at them. "Mr. Kessler is very interested in meeting you both," she said. "He has questions, and you're going to answer them." The SUV started moving. Hannah tested the zip ties. tight, no give. Beside her, Calloway's breathing was shallow, rapid, going into shock. "Stay with me," she whispered. He nodded, barely. Hannah looked out the window. They were heading north, away from the city, toward nothing, toward a place where people disappeared. She thought about the rifle she'd left in Brennan's car, the phone with its battery pulled, Reeves waiting for a call that would never come. She'd been outplayed, outmaneuvered, and now they were going to die. But then she felt it, in her boot, something small, hard, cold. The knife, the one she'd used to cut Calloway's zip ties last night. She'd forgotten to give it back. Her fingers stretched, testing the limits of the restraints. Almost there. Not quite. The SUV turned onto a dirt road, trees closed in around them. No houses, no witnesses. Voss was on her phone, speaking quietly. "We have them both. ETA, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Hannah kept working her fingers, stretching, reaching. The knife was right there, so close. The SUV hit a pothole, jostled. Hannah's finger hooked the knife handle. She pulled it free, carefully, silently. Positioned it against the zip tie. Started sawing. The plastic resisted. But slowly, fiber by fiber, it began to fray. 10 minutes. The tie broke. Hannah's hands were free. She kept them behind her back, didn't move, didn't let anyone see. Just waited. And in the front seat, Voss smiled at something on her phone, completely unaware that everything was about to go sideways. And in the front seat, Voss smiled at something on her phone, completely unaware that everything was about to go sideways. Hannah kept the knife pressed flat against her palm, blade hidden, waiting for the right moment. The SUV bounced over ruts in the dirt road, trees pressing close on both sides, branches scraping the roof. She counted seconds, watched Voss's posture, the driver's hands on the wheel, the two contractors in the third row behind her. Calloway's breathing was getting worse, shallow, ragged. His face had gone from white to gray. Blood pooled beneath his legs, soaking into the seat. "He's bleeding out," Hannah said. Voss didn't turn. "He'll last long enough." "For what?" "For Mr. Kessler to have his conversation. And then? Then it doesn't matter." Hannah shifted slightly, testing her range of motion. The contractors behind her weren't paying attention. They thought she was secured, helpless. Big mistake. The SUV slowed. Ahead, through the windshield, Hannah saw a clearing. An old hunting lodge, maybe, or a remote compound. Single structure, 2 stories, metal roof. No other buildings visible. No neighbors for miles. Perfect place to make people disappear. The driver pulled up to the front entrance, put the vehicle in park. Voss opened her door, stepped out. "Bring them inside." The contractors moved. One opened Hannah's door, reached for her arm. She exploded. The knife came up fast, drove through the contractor's hand, pinned it to the doorframe. He screamed. Hannah twisted the blade, yanked it free, and slashed across his throat. Blood sprayed. He went down, choking. The second contractor lunged. Hannah ducked under his grab, came up inside his guard, and buried the knife in his armpit. Femoral artery. He collapsed. Voss spun, pistol rising. Hannah threw the knife. It wasn't a great throw, wobbled in flight, but it caught Voss in the shoulder, knocked her aim wide. The shot went high, punched through metal. Hannah dove out of the SUV, hit the ground rolling, came up grabbing the fallen contractor's rifle. She fired 3 rounds. Voss dropped behind the vehicle. The driver tried to bail out. Hannah shot him through the window. She moved fast, circled around the SUV, staying low. Voss was on the radio. "Compound breach. Subjects armed. Need backup." Hannah fired again, suppressing. Voss crawled under the vehicle, came out the other side. Hannah lost sight of her. She swept the area. Nothing moving, just trees and shadows and the sound of her own breathing. Then Calloway's voice, weak from inside the SUV. "Hannah!" Movement behind her. Hannah spun. Voss was there, 10 feet away, pistol leveling. They fired simultaneously. Hannah felt the impact, hot, sharp, punching through her side just above her hip. She stumbled. Her own shot went wide. Voss advanced, pistol steady now, aimed at Hannah's head. Hannah tried to raise the rifle, couldn't. Her hands wouldn't respond. The world tilted. Voss stood over her. "You should have taken the deal." She pulled the trigger. Click. Empty chamber. Hannah kicked out, swept Voss's legs. Voss went down hard. Hannah rolled on top of her, drove an elbow into her face. Once, twice. Voss's nose shattered, blood everywhere. But Voss was trained too. She bucked, reversed the position, got a hand around Hannah's throat. Hannah's vision darkened. Her side was on fire, blood spreading warm across her shirt. She reached out blindly, fingers scrabbling across dirt and gravel. Found something. A rock. Fist-sized. She swung it, caught Voss in the temple. Voss's grip loosened. Hannah hit her again, and again. Voss slumped, unconscious. Hannah shoved her off, gasped for air. Her side was screaming. She pressed a hand to the wound. Blood leaked between her fingers. Through and through, she thought. Maybe, or maybe not. Didn't matter. She had to move. She crawled back to the SUV, pulled herself up using the door handle. Calloway was still in the back seat, barely conscious, staring at her with wide, unfocused eyes. "Can you walk?" she asked. "I don't know." "Try." She pulled him out, got his arm over her shoulder. They staggered away from the vehicle, toward the tree line. Behind them, the compound's front door opened. 3 men emerged, armed, moving fast. Hannah dragged Calloway into the trees. They crashed through underbrush, branches whipping their faces. Hannah's side was bleeding worse now. Every step sent fresh pain lancing through her core. Behind them, voices, footsteps, pursuit. They weren't going to make it. Then she heard it, distant but growing louder. Rotor blades, helicopters. She looked up through the canopy, saw movement, multiple aircraft, military. Reeves, he'd found them. Hannah pulled Calloway down behind a fallen log, pressed her hand harder against her wound. Blood was soaking through her shirt now, running down her leg. The helicopters descended. Fast ropes dropped. Soldiers hit the ground running. Gunfire erupted. Short, controlled bursts. The contractors didn't stand a chance. 30 seconds later, it was over. Hannah heard boots approaching. She tried to raise her weapon, but it wasn't there. Lost somewhere in the trees. A figure appeared. Full tactical gear. Rifle raised. Then he lowered it. "Raven 7? She nodded, too tired to speak. The soldier keyed his radio. "Found them. Need immediate medevac. 2 casualties, both critical." More soldiers appeared. Medics. They moved fast, professional. One cut away Hannah's shirt, packed the wound, started an IV line. Another worked on Calloway. Hannah tried to stay conscious, tried to focus. But the world was fading, sound muffling, vision tunneling. The last thing she saw before everything went black was Colonel Reeves kneeling beside her, his face tight with something that might have been concern or might have been anger. "You did it," he said. "You got the evidence." She tried to answer. Couldn't. Then nothing. She woke up in a hospital bed. Not Crescent Valley Memorial, somewhere else. Military facility, judging by the decor, or lack thereof. White walls. Minimal equipment, armed guard outside her door. Her side throbbed. She looked down. Clean bandages. IV in her arm. Heart monitor beeping steadily. She was alive. The door opened. Reeves walked in, carrying a tablet. "Welcome back." Hannah's throat was dry. "How long?" 18 hours. You had surgery. Bullet nicked your liver. Surgeon said you were lucky. 2 inches to the right, and you'd be dead. Calloway? Alive. Stable. They operated on his leg. He'll walk again. Hannah exhaled. The evidence? Reeves set the tablet on the bedside table. Encrypted. But we broke it 6 hours ago. He paused. It's worse than we thought. Kessler wasn't just running black ops. He was selling military intelligence to foreign buyers. Weapons tech. Classified satellite data. Names of undercover operatives. Hannah's chest tightened. How many dead? 12 confirmed. Maybe more we don't know about yet. And Kessler? Gone. Disappeared 6 hours before we raided his estate. Private jet filed a flight plan to Singapore. Never arrived. Either he diverted or the plane went down. We're still looking. Hannah stared at the ceiling. He got away. Maybe. But his network's collapsing. We've arrested 43 people in the last 12 hours. Contractors, corporate officers. 3 sitting congressmen, 2 DOD officials. Reeves leaned forward. You broke the dam. Now everything's flooding out. It's not enough. It's something. Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Where's Voss? Custody, singing like a canary. She's giving us names, locations, operational details in exchange for reduced charges. She tried to kill us. I know, but she's more useful alive. Hannah wanted to argue, wanted to say that wasn't justice, but she was too tired. Reeves stood. Rest. We'll need your statement later. Full debrief. But for now, just rest. He left. Hannah closed her eyes, tried to sleep, couldn't. Her mind wouldn't stop. Kessler was still out there, somewhere. And even if his network was collapsing, he had resources, connections, money. He could rebuild, unless someone stopped him permanently. 3 days later, they let her out of bed. She could walk, slowly, one hand pressed to her side. The wound pulled every time she moved, but she didn't care. She found Calloway in the next wing. He was sitting up, leg in a brace, staring at a television mounted to the wall. The news was covering the story. Leaked documents, congressional hearings scheduled, DOJ announcing a special prosecutor, Kessler's companies in freefall, stock prices crashing, board members resigning. Calloway looked up when she entered. You look like hell. You too. He gestured at the TV. We did that. Yeah. Think it'll stick? I don't know. Calloway muted the television. They told me Kessler disappeared. That's what I heard. You believe it? Hannah sat down carefully in the chair beside his bed. No. Me neither. They were quiet for a moment. Then Calloway said, What happens to us now? You testify. You go into witness protection if you want it. You start over. And you? Hannah didn't answer, because she didn't know. 2 weeks later, she was cleared for discharge. Medical and operational. Reeves offered her a position, consultant, contractor. Whatever title made her comfortable. She turned him down. Why? He asked. Because I'm tired. Of what? Of fighting. Reeves studied her face. That's not true. No, Hannah admitted. It's not. Then what is it? She looked out the window. I spent 3 years trying to be someone else, trying to hide, trying to pretend I wasn't what I was. She paused. And all it did was make me smaller. So what are you going to do? I don't know, but not this. Reeves nodded slowly. If you change your mind, I won't. She left that afternoon. No ceremony, no goodbyes, just walked out the front gate and kept walking. She took a bus back to the city, back to her studio apartment. It was exactly as she'd left it. Bare, empty. A place to sleep, but not to live. She packed her things. Didn't take long. She didn't own much. Then she drove to Crescent Valley Memorial. The hospital looked the same parking lot, same entrance, same flickering light over the ambulance bay. She walked inside. The ER was busy. Nurses moving fast, doctors shouting orders, controlled chaos. The charge nurse saw her first. Stopped dead. Reed? Hannah nodded. We heard you were... I'm fine. Dr. Brennan appeared from an exam room, caught sight of her, froze. Reed, you're back. Is my suspension still active? Brennan blinked. What? My suspension, is it active? No, administration dropped it. After everything that happened, He stopped. You want your job back? Yes. Brennan stared at her. Then slowly he smiled. You've got it. Hannah nodded, turned to leave. Reed, she looked back. For what it's worth, Brennan said, I'm glad you're not dead. Me too. She went home, showered, changed into clean scrubs, looked at herself in the mirror. Same person. Different, somehow. She reported for her shift the next morning at 7. The charge nurse handed her a patient list. Trauma 2, GSW, drunk driver in 3, possible stroke in 5. Hannah took the list. Got it. She moved through the ER like she'd never left, checking vitals, starting IVs, cleaning wounds. The work was familiar, grounding. Around noon, a commotion at the entrance. Paramedics wheeling in a stretcher, man in a suit, older, pale, clutching his chest. Possible MI, the paramedic called. Vitals dropping. Hannah moved fast, took over compressions, barked orders, IV access, EKG, crash cart. The man's eyes fluttered open, focused on her face, and she recognized him. Richard Kessler. He looked different, thinner, gray, older, but it was him. Her hands froze on his chest. Kessler's lips moved, barely a whisper. "Help me." Hannah stared at him, thought about Calloway bleeding on the ground, thought about the 12 operatives killed because of this man's greed, thought about every life he'd destroyed. She could let him die. Right now. Stop compressions. Step back. Let nature take its course. No one would question it, but then she thought about the 3 years she'd spent hiding, the 3 years she'd wasted being invisible. And she realized something. Letting him die wasn't justice. It was just another way of running. She started compressions again. "Get me epi. Now." The team moved, administered drugs, shocked him twice, stabilized his rhythm. Kessler survived. Hannah stepped back, breathing hard, and found Dr. Brennan staring at her. "You know who that is?" he asked quietly. "Yes." "And you saved him?" "Yes." "Why?" Hannah pulled off her gloves. "Because he needs to stand trial. He needs to face what he did. And running from that, even through death, doesn't fix anything." Brennan nodded slowly. "You're different." "Maybe?" "No, definitely." Hannah walked away, found the break room, sat down. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear, from something else. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. "Hello? Ms. Reed, this is Special Prosecutor Janet Carver. I'm handling the Kessler case." "Okay. We just arrested him at Crescent Valley Memorial. He suffered a heart attack attempting to re-enter the country under a false identity." A pause. "I understand you were the nurse who treated him." "Yes." "Thank you. If you'd let him die, we'd have lost our chance at prosecution." "I didn't do it for you." "I know, but it matters. He's going to trial. And with the evidence Sergeant Calloway provided, we're going to make sure he never sees daylight again." "Good." Carver was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Colonel Reeves speaks highly of you. If you ever want to consult on—" "No." "Fair enough, but if you change your mind—" "I won't." Hannah hung up. She sat there for a long time, thinking, processing. Then she stood, threw away her coffee cup, and went back to work. The rest of her shift passed normally. Trauma cases, routine care, nothing exciting. At the end of the day, she clocked out, walked to the parking lot. Calloway was waiting by her car, leaning on a cane, legs still in a brace, but standing. "Heard you saved Kessler's life," he said. "Yeah." "Why?" "Because he doesn't get to escape. Not this time." Calloway smiled. "They're saying he'll get life. No parole. No deals." "Good. And Voss is testifying against everyone, burning the whole network down." Hannah unlocked her car. "What about you? Witness protection?" "Declined. Figured I'd stick around, maybe testify in person. Look Kessler in the eye when they convict him." "That's dangerous. So is living." Hannah almost smiled. "You need a ride?" "Nah, got one coming." He paused. "But I wanted to say thank you for everything." "Don't." "No, you need to hear this. You saved my life multiple times, and you didn't have to." "Yes, I did." "Why?" Hannah looked at him. "Because 3 years ago, I walked away from who I was. I thought I could be someone smaller, quieter, invisible, and maybe I could have stayed that way. But then you came along, and I had to choose, stay hidden and let you die, or step forward and risk everything." She paused. "And I realized I'd rather die fighting than live hiding." Calloway held her gaze. Then he nodded. "Me too." He turned, limped toward the parking lot exit where a car was pulling up. Hannah got in her car, started the engine. Her phone buzzed. Another text. This one from Marcus Webb. "Kessler's arrest made international news. You did it. Whatever comes next, remember that." Hannah deleted the message. She didn't need reminders, didn't need validation. She knew what she'd done, and she knew what it cost. But for the first time in 3 years, when she looked in the rearview mirror, she recognized the person staring back. Not invisible, not hidden, just herself. She drove home, parked, walked up to her apartment, opened the door, and stopped. Someone was sitting in her living room, in the dark. Hannah's hand moved to her waistband, but she wasn't armed. Not anymore. The figure stood, moved into the light from the hallway. Margaret Hale, the hospital administrator. "Ms. Reed, we need to talk." Hannah's jaw tightened. "I was cleared. Brennan reinstated me. This isn't about your suspension." "Then what?" Hale set a folder on the kitchen counter. "This is about your future. Dr. Brennan recommended you for a promotion, head of trauma nursing, oversight of all emergency protocols." Hannah stared at her. "Why?" "Because in the last 3 weeks, you've done more to protect this hospital's patients than anyone in the last decade. And because Dr. Brennan finally admitted that he was wrong about you." Hale paused. "The board approved it this afternoon. The job is yours if you want it." Hannah looked at the folder, didn't touch it. "What if I say no?" "Then you stay where you are. No punishment, no consequences. But the offer stands." Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need." Hale left. Hannah locked the door behind her, sat down on the couch, opened the folder. Inside was a contract, job description, salary, 3 times what she was making now, a position where she'd have authority, influence, the ability to make real changes, everything she'd never had before. She set the folder down, stared at the wall. 3 years ago, she'd walked away from power, from responsibility, from everything that made her Raven 7, and now they were offering it back. Not the same, but close. She thought about Calloway, about the contractors, about Kessler lying on a gurney begging for help. She thought about the choice she'd made, to save him, to let justice run its course instead of taking it into her own hands. That was power too, quieter, subtler, but real. She picked up her phone, called Brennan. He answered on the second ring. "Reed, I'll take the job." A pause, then, "Good, you start Monday." She hung up, sat there in the dark, thinking. For 3 years she'd been invisible, ignored, dismissed. And now, finally, she wasn't. But the weight of that, the responsibility, the expectations, the knowledge that people would be watching now, settled onto her shoulders like old armor she'd forgotten how to wear. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Kessler was sitting in a holding cell, waiting for trial, waiting for justice. And somewhere else, Voss was talking. Names, dates, locations, tearing down the network piece by piece. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't clean, but it was something. Hannah placed her hand against the glass. Cold, solid, real. She'd stopped running. She'd stopped hiding. And whatever came next, she'd face it standing. Her phone buzzed. One last message. Unknown number. But she recognized the encryption pattern. She opened it. "Well done, Raven 7, but Kessler was never the real threat. He was just the face. The network runs deeper than you know, and they're not finished with you yet. Watch your back." "A friend." Hannah stared at the message. Then she deleted it, pulled the battery from her phone, and walked into her bedroom to get some sleep. Because Monday was coming. And she had work to do. Because Monday was coming, and she had work to do. Hannah woke at 5:30 Monday morning. The apartment was dark, quiet, and for a moment she just lay there, feeling the pull of old instincts. Check exits, count threats, plan escape routes. Then she remembered where she was, who she was now. She got up, showered, dressed in clean scrubs, clipped her new badge to her collar, head of trauma nursing. The title felt foreign, heavy. She made coffee, drank it black, and left. The drive to Crescent Valley Memorial took 20 minutes. Early morning traffic, delivery trucks, people heading to jobs they didn't talk about at parties. Normal. She parked in the staff lot, walked through the entrance, and stopped. The ER was already moving, but something was different. Doctor. Brennan saw her first. He straightened, nodded. "Reed, welcome back." 2 nurses nearby looked up. One, Sarah, who'd worked the night shift for years and barely acknowledged Hannah's existence before, smiled. "Good to see you." Hannah nodded, kept walking. The charge nurse intercepted her at the main desk. "Your office is ready. 2nd floor, East Wing. Admin wanted you to have a proper space. I don't need an office. Hospital policy. Department heads get offices. The charge nurse paused. There's also a staff meeting at 8. Brennan wants you to introduce yourself. Set expectations. Hannah's chest tightened. She'd spent 3 years avoiding attention. Now they wanted her to stand in front of people and talk about leadership. I'll be there. She spent the next 2 hours on the floor, checking equipment, reviewing protocols, watching how the staff moved, where the bottlenecks were, what needed fixing. She made notes, lots of them. At 8, she walked into the conference room. 15 people were already there. Nurses, residents, a few attendings. They quieted when she entered. All eyes on her. Brennan stood at the front. Everyone, this is Hannah Reed. She's taking over as head of trauma nursing effective today. He gestured to her. Hannah, the floor is yours. She moved to the front of the room, looked at the faces staring back, some curious, some skeptical, a few outright hostile. Most of you know me, Hannah said. I've worked here 3 years, background staff, restocking supplies, doing the work no one notices. She paused. And that gave me a perspective most of you don't have. I've seen where we fail, where protocols break down, where patients slip through cracks because we're too busy fighting each other instead of fighting for them. Someone in the back shifted uncomfortably. I'm not here to make friends, Hannah continued. I'm here to make sure that when someone's life is on the line, we don't miss. That means changes. Some of you won't like them, but if you're here because you actually care about saving lives, you'll adapt. Silence. Then Brennan spoke. What kind of changes? New triage protocols, faster turnaround on labs, better communication between departments, and accountability. If someone drops the ball, they own it. No more passing blame. A resident in the front row raised his hand. What about staffing? We're already stretched thin. I know, I'm working on it. Another nurse spoke up. And if administration doesn't approve your changes, Hannah met her eyes. Then I'll make them approve it. The room went quiet again, but this time a few people were nodding. The meeting ended. People filtered out. Brennan stayed behind. That was blunt, he said. You told me to set expectations. I didn't tell you to declare war on the status quo. The status quo almost got Calloway killed. It did get other patients killed. I'm done with it. Brennan studied her face. Then he smiled. Small, but real. Good. This place needs someone willing to fight. He left. Hannah stood there alone, feeling the weight of what she'd just committed to. Then her phone buzzed. She'd replaced the battery that morning, reactivated it. The screen showed a new message. Reeves. Kessler's arraignment is today. 2 p.m. Federal Courthouse. Thought you'd want to know. Hannah stared at the message. She should stay here. Do her job. Let the legal system handle it. But something pulled at her. The need to see it. To watch him stand before a judge and answer for what he'd done. She texted back. I'll be there. At noon, she left the hospital, drove downtown. The federal courthouse was a granite monolith, steps wide enough to march an army up. News vans lined the street, reporters jostling for position. Hannah parked 2 blocks away, walked in through a side entrance, showed her ID to security. They waved her through. The courtroom was packed. Spectators, journalists, lawyers. She found a seat in the back, kept her head down. At 2:15, they brought Kessler in. He looked smaller than she remembered. Orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, gray hair disheveled, but his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Be seated. The arraignment began. Formal, procedural, boring. Charges read aloud. Conspiracy, treason, money laundering. 12 counts of accessory to murder. Kessler's lawyer entered a plea. Not guilty. The judge set bail. $5 million. Kessler's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client is a respected businessman. He has deep ties to the community. No flight risk. The prosecutor, Janet Carver, rose. Your Honor, the defendant attempted to flee the country using a false passport. He orchestrated the murders of federal witnesses. He is absolutely a flight risk. The judge looked at Kessler. Bail is denied. Defendant will remain in federal custody pending trial. The gavel came down. Kessler's face didn't change, but his hands tightened into fists. They let him out. Hannah watched him go, felt something shift inside her chest. Not satisfaction, not quite, just the quiet certainty that this part was over. She stood to leave. Someone touched her arm. She turned. Calloway stood there, leaning on his cane, dressed in a suit that looked like it didn't fit quite right. "Didn't think I'd see you here," he said. "Same. Guess we both needed to see it." "Yeah." They walked out together down the courthouse steps. The press was swarming, cameras flashing. Calloway ignored them. Hannah did too. At the bottom, a woman approached. Mid-40s, sharp suit, intense eyes. Janet Carver. "Sergeant Calloway. Miss Reed. I wanted to thank you both. Without your testimony and evidence, we wouldn't have a case." Calloway nodded. "When's the trial?" 6 months. Maybe sooner if we can expedite." Carver paused. "I'll need both of you to testify. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes," Calloway said. Hannah hesitated. "What will that involve?" "Depositions, interviews, and eventually testimony in open court. Kessler's lawyers will try to discredit you. They'll dig into your past, make you look unreliable." "Let them try." Carver smiled. "Good. I'll be in touch." She left. Hannah and Calloway stood there on the sidewalk, watching the city move around them. "You ready for this?" Calloway asked. "For what?" "For them to know everything. Raven 7, your service record, all of it. It'll come out during trial." Hannah looked at him. "I spent 3 years hiding who I was, pretending I was someone smaller. It didn't work. So yeah, I'm ready." Calloway smiled. "You've changed. So have you." "Maybe." They stood there a moment longer. Then Calloway said, "I'm heading to physical therapy." "You?" "Back to work." "The hospital?" "Yeah." "They're lucky to have you." Hannah almost laughed. "They don't know that yet." "They will." He limped away. Hannah watched him go, then walked back to her car. She drove to the hospital, arrived just as the evening shift was starting. Went straight to the ER. Chaos. As always, trauma in Bay 2, code blue in 3. Waiting room packed. Hannah jumped in, grabbed supplies. Started an IV on a patient the residents had missed twice. Caught a medication error before it reached the patient. Reorganized the supply closet so people could actually find what they needed. By midnight, the ER had cleared, mostly. Brennan found her in the break room. "You've been here 14 hours." "I know." "Go home." "In a minute." He sat down across from her. "I heard you went to Kessler's arraignment." "News travels fast." "It always does." Brennan leaned back. "People are talking about you, about what happened. Some of it's accurate, most of it's not. Let them talk. You could set the record straight. No point. They'll believe what they want." Brennan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "For 3 years I treated you like you were invisible, took credit for your work, dismissed your input. I told myself it was because you were quiet, unassertive, not leadership material." He paused. "I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Hannah looked at him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to hear it, and because I'm tired of being the kind of doctor who only respects people after they prove themselves in some dramatic way. You were good 3 years ago. I just didn't bother to notice." Hannah didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Brennan stood. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be busy." He left. Hannah sat there alone, turning his words over in her mind. Then she went home. Over the next 3 weeks, things changed. Hannah implemented her protocols. Faster triage, better lab coordination, mandatory debriefs after every major trauma. Some staff resisted, a few quit, but most adapted. Patient outcomes improved, wait times dropped, the ER ran smoother, and people noticed. The hospital board requested a meeting. Hannah went, presented her data, explained her methods. They approved additional funding, hired 2 more nurses, upgraded equipment. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. During that time, Voss's testimony continued. More arrests, more revelations. The network Kessler had built was collapsing, piece by piece. Senators resigned, corporate officers were indicted, the scandal grew. And then, 4 weeks after Kessler's arraignment, Hannah got a call. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. "Hello? Ms. Reed, this is Director Thomas Brennan, FBI. Hannah straightened. What can I do for you? We've been monitoring communications related to the Kessler case. 3 days ago, we intercepted a message. Encrypted, but we broke it. He paused. It was a contract. On you. Hannah's blood went cold. From who? We don't know yet, but someone in Kessler's network is still operational, and they've put a price on your head. $2 million. Hannah's hand tightened on the phone. How long do I have? Unknown, but we're taking this seriously. I'd like to offer you protective custody. No? Ms. Reed, I said no. I'm not hiding again. Then at least let us assign a security detail. Hannah thought about it, about going back to looking over her shoulder, about living in fear. Then she thought about the alternative. One agent, low profile. They stay outside my apartment and follow me to work. That's it. Agreed. I'll have someone there tonight. He hung up. Hannah sat there processing. Someone wanted her dead. Still, even with Kessler in custody, even with the network collapsing, someone out there was willing to pay $2 million to make her disappear. She called Reeves. I heard, he said before she could speak. FBI briefed me an hour ago. Who is it? We don't know, but we're working on it. Work faster. We're trying. In the meantime, be careful. I'm always careful. No, you're always brave. There's a difference. She hung up. That night, a black SUV parked outside her apartment building. An agent, young, serious, armed, introduced himself. Agent Ramirez. He'd be her shadow until the threat was neutralized. Hannah didn't sleep well. The next morning, she went to work as usual. Ramirez followed at a distance, professional, discreet, but people noticed. Why do you have a bodyguard? A nurse asked. Precaution? For what? Hannah didn't answer. The day passed, then another, then a week. Nothing happened. But the tension was building. Hannah felt it. A storm gathering. Then, 10 days after the FBI's call, Reeves contacted her. We found him. Hannah's pulse kicked up. Who? Victor Mallory, former partner of Kessler's. They had a falling out years ago, but Mallory still had access to some of Kessler's assets. When Kessler got arrested, Mallory tried to take over the network. Failed. Now he's burning everything down out of spite. Where is he? We're closing in. He's somewhere in the city, underground, but he knows we're looking. So he'll make a move. Probably, and soon. Let him. Reed, I'm serious. Use me as bait. Set a trap. End this. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, That's a bad idea. It's the only idea that works. You could get killed. I could get killed walking to my car. At least this way we control the situation. Another pause. Then, I'll set it up. But you follow my lead. Exactly. Deal. 2 days later, the trap was ready. Hannah would go to her apartment as usual. Alone. Ramirez would pull back, create the illusion of vulnerability. Reeves and his team would be staged nearby, ready to move. And they'd wait. Hannah drove home that evening, hyper-aware of every car, every shadow, parked in her usual spot. Walked to her building. Ramirez was nowhere in sight. She climbed the stairs, unlocked her door, stepped inside. The apartment was dark. She reached for the light switch. Don't. Hannah froze. A man stood in the corner. 50s, thin, sharp features. Gun in his hand. Victor Mallory. Close the door, he said. Hannah closed it slowly. How did you get in here? I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Now sit down. Hannah sat on the couch, kept her hands visible. What do you want? To send a message. Kessler thought he could build something permanent. He was wrong. I told him. But he didn't listen. Mallory stepped closer. And now he's in prison. And I'm cleaning up his mess. By killing me? By making an example. You humiliated him, exposed him, destroyed everything he built. People need to see what happens when you cross this world. Hannah met his eyes. So you're going to kill me, make it public, show everyone that the network still has teeth. Exactly. Except you're not going to get away with it. Mallory smiled. You think your FBI friends are outside? I've been watching this building for 3 days. I know their patterns. They pulled surveillance an hour ago. You're alone. Hannah's chest tightened, but she kept her voice steady. Then do it. Mallory raised the gun. Any last words? Just one. Now. The window exploded. Mallory spun, fired blindly, but he was already too late. 3 red dots appeared on his chest, sniper lasers. He dropped the gun, raised his hands. The door burst open. Reeves and 4 agents stormed in, weapons raised. On the ground, now! Mallory complied. They cuffed him, dragged him out. Reeves looked at Hannah. You okay? She nodded, hands shaking now that it was over. How did you know? We didn't pull surveillance. That was misinformation we fed through channels we knew Mallory was monitoring. Made him think you were vulnerable. Reeves paused. And we had snipers on the roof across the street the entire time. You were never alone. Hannah exhaled slowly. Thanks. Don't thank me. You're the one who volunteered to be bait. They left. Hannah sat there in her apartment, window shattered, feeling the adrenaline drain away. It was over, really over. Kessler in custody, Voss testifying, Mallory arrested, the network dismantled. She'd won. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like exhaustion. The next morning, the news broke. Victor Mallory arrested. Connection to Kessler confirmed. Federal charges pending. The media went wild. More hearings scheduled, more investigations launched. And Hannah's name was everywhere. The nurse who took down a criminal empire. The quiet hero. The woman who refused to stay silent. It was uncomfortable, invasive, but she endured it. Because the alternative was going back to being invisible, and she'd decided she was done with that. 3 months later, Kessler's trial began. Hannah testified on day 4, told the jury what she'd seen, what she'd done, why she'd risked everything. Kessler's lawyer tried to discredit her, questioned her military record, suggested she had ulterior motives. Hannah didn't flinch, just answered every question calmly, factually. When she stepped down, she met Kessler's eyes. He looked away first. Calloway testified the next day, detailed the crimes he'd witnessed, the orders he'd followed, the lives that were lost. The jury listened, silent, horrified. 2 weeks later, they delivered their verdict. Guilty. On all counts. Sentencing came a month after that. Life in prison. No parole. Hannah watched from the gallery as they led him away. This time, she felt it. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just closure. She walked out of the courthouse into bright sunlight. Calloway was waiting at the bottom of the steps. It's over, he said. Yeah. What are you going to do now? Go back to work. That's it? Hannah looked at him. That's everything. Calloway smiled. You've changed. You keep saying that. Because it's true. They stood there for a moment. Then Calloway said, I'm moving, out of state, starting over. Figured I'd earned it. You did. What about you? You ever think about doing something else? Hannah shook her head. I found what I'm supposed to be doing. Took me 3 years to figure it out. But I'm not walking away again. Good. They shook hands. Then Calloway limped away, disappearing into the crowd. Hannah stood there alone, watching the city move around her. Then she drove back to Crescent Valley Memorial. The ER was busy, as always. She jumped in, helped stabilize a patient, caught a dosage error, reorganized a supply cart. Normal work. Important work. Around 7 that evening, Dr. Brennan found her. Reed, conference room, now. She followed him upstairs. The room was full. Administration, department heads, half the hospital board. Margaret Hale stood at the front. Ms. Reed, please sit. Hannah sat. Hale cleared her throat. Over the past few months, you've implemented significant changes to our trauma protocols. Patient outcomes have improved by 30%. Mortality rates are down. Wait times are at a 10-year low. She paused. The board has been discussing how to expand your role, and we'd like to offer you a position, Chief of Emergency Medicine. Hannah blinked. I'm a nurse, not a physician. We're aware, which is why this position would be newly created. Operational oversight, strategic planning. You'd work alongside Dr. Brennan, but you'd have equal authority. Hannah looked at Brennan. He nodded. I recommended it. Why? Because you're better at this than I am, and because this hospital needs someone who actually cares more about patients than politics. Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I'll need full authority over staffing and protocols. No board interference." Hale smiled. "Agreed. And a budget increase. We're still understaffed. We'll work on it." "Then yes, I accept." The room erupted in quiet applause. Professional, respectful. Hannah stood, shook hands, accepted congratulations. But inside she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. That night she went home, sat on her couch, looked around her apartment, still bare, still empty. But it didn't feel that way anymore. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through messages, stopped on one from Marcus Webb. "Heard about your promotion. Congratulations. You've earned it. Stay safe." She smiled, typed back, "Thanks. I will." Then she set the phone down and closed her eyes. 3 years ago, she'd walked away from everything, tried to become someone smaller, someone invisible. It had almost destroyed her, but then she'd been forced to choose, hide or fight, run or stand. And she'd chosen to stand. It hadn't been easy, hadn't been clean, she'd been shot, hunted, almost killed multiple times. But she'd survived. And more than that, she'd won. Not because she was stronger than everyone else, not because she was fearless, but because she'd refused to stay silent when it mattered. Hannah opened her eyes, looked at her reflection in the window, the same face, the same person. But different now, sharper, harder, more certain. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, people were hurting, dying, fighting battles no one else would see. And tomorrow, she'd be there for them. Not as Raven 7, not as a ghost, just as Hannah Reed, a nurse, a leader. A woman who'd learned that the quietest voices could be the most powerful, if they chose to speak. She placed her hand on the glass. Cold, solid, real. Then she turned away, went to bed, and slept. No nightmares, no regrets, just rest. Because tomorrow was coming, and there was work to do. The next morning, Hannah woke early, made coffee, put on clean scrubs, clipped her new badge to her collar. Chief of Emergency Medicine. She looked at it for a long moment, then she smiled, and went to work. The ER was already moving when she arrived. Nurses hustling, doctors barking orders, patients waiting. But something was different. When she walked in, people looked up, acknowledged her, nodded. Not with fear, not with resentment, with respect. Dr. Brennan met her at the main desk. "Morning, Chief." "Morning." "We've got a full board. 2 traumas incoming, possible stroke in Bay 3. "I'll take the stroke." She moved through the ER with purpose. Checked the patient, ordered tests, caught the diagnosis early, started treatment. The patient stabilized. By noon, the rush had cleared. Hannah stood at the nurses' station, reviewing charts. A young resident approached, nervous. "Chief Reed, I wanted to ask your advice on a case." Hannah looked up. "Go ahead," the resident explained. Hannah listened, asked questions, provided guidance. When he left, another nurse approached, then another. One by one, people started coming to her, not because they had to, because they wanted to, because they trusted her. That afternoon, Hannah met with administration, discussed budgets, staffing, long-term strategy. They listened, took notes, approved her proposals. By the end of the day, she'd laid the groundwork for 6 months of improvements. When her shift ended, she didn't rush out. She stayed, walked the ER one more time, made sure everything was in order. Then she left. Outside, the sun was setting. The parking lot was quiet. She walked to her car, got in, started the engine. Her phone buzzed. A message from Callaway. "Settled in the new place. Quiet here. Strange after everything, but good. Hope you're doing okay." Hannah typed back. "Doing great. Keep in touch." She set the phone down, drove home. That night, she stood in her apartment looking around. It was time. Time to make this place more than just somewhere to sleep. She ordered furniture, pictures for the walls, plants, small things that made it feel like a home. Over the next few weeks, the apartment transformed, and so did she. She started running in the mornings, not to train, just to move, to feel alive. She reconnected with old friends, carefully, slowly. She even went on a date. It didn't go anywhere, but it was a start. And every day she went to work, led her team, saved lives. Not perfectly. She made mistakes, had bad days, lost patients she should have saved, but she kept going, because that's what leaders do. 6 months after Kessler's conviction, Hannah stood in the hospital auditorium. The room was packed, staff from every department, administration, even a few board members. Margaret Hale was at the podium. Today, we're recognizing someone who has fundamentally changed how this hospital operates. Someone who refused to accept mediocrity, who fought for her patients when no one else would. She gestured to Hannah. Chief Hannah Reed. Applause filled the room. Hannah walked to the front, stood at the podium, looked out at the faces staring back. Thank you, she said. But I didn't do this alone. Every person in this room contributes. Every nurse, every doctor, every technician. We save lives because we work together, because we refuse to give up, and because we believe that every patient deserves our best. More applause. Hannah stepped down. People crowded around her, shook her hand, thanked her. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged. That evening, she drove to a quiet spot overlooking the city, parked, sat there watching the lights come on as darkness fell. Her phone buzzed. Reeves. Heard about your award, proud of you. You've come a long way. Hannah smiled, typed back. Thanks. Couldn't have done it without you. She set the phone down, looked out at the city. 3 years ago, she'd been invisible, ignored, dismissed. Now she was a leader, respected, valued. But more than that, she was herself. Not Raven 7, not the ghost medic, not a soldier pretending to be a nurse, just Hannah Reed. A woman who'd learned that strength didn't come from violence. It came from standing up, speaking out, refusing to let the world make you smaller than you were meant to be. She started the car, drove home. That night, she slept peacefully, and when morning came, she woke ready. Ready for whatever came next, ready to keep fighting, not because she had to, but because she chose to. And that made all the difference. Years later, someone would ask her how she did it, how she went from being invisible to being a leader, from being dismissed to being respected. And she'd smile, think for a moment, then say, I stopped waiting for permission, stopped waiting for someone else to see my worth, and I started seeing it myself. That's the secret. Not that you have to be perfect, not that you have to be fearless, just that you have to show up, stand your ground, and refuse to let anyone make you disappear. That's it? That's everything. Because in the end, power wasn't about rank, wasn't about titles or recognition. It was about knowing who you were and refusing to be anything less. Hannah Reed had learned that the hard way, but she'd learned it. And now, every day she lived it. In the ER, in her community, in every choice she made. She'd been invisible once, but never again. And as she stood in the hospital that had once overlooked her, leading the team that had once dismissed her, saving the lives that had always mattered, she knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. Not as a ghost, not as a shadow, but as herself. Fully, completely, unapologetically. And that was the greatest victory of all.